Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
I'm so sorry, the Wind User said with a stutter. It was all Ben's idea. He said that we would be able to take care of your level 1s and take your crystals, added to our team's points. The Wind User was deadly frightened. Not only had he never seen such a strange ability before, but he was also still trying to decide if the person in front of him was human. This Ben, does he work for anyone? Quinn asked. I mean, we all work for the military, but no one told us to do anything if that's what you're asking. Quinn couldn't be 100% sure if he were telling the truth or not, but judging by his reaction and how frightened he was, Quinn felt like his words were true. You know, if you increase your charm stat a bit more, you would be able to get these weak-minded people to tell you anything, the system said. Are you kidding me? Quinn asked. No, there are certain skills in your system that will only unlock once you get enough stat points. One of them is a type of mind control for the charm stat. It's quite handy if their mind is weak. You can replace their memories, get them to spill the beans, or even if it was high, you could even get the person to kill themselves. Of course, that would only be for the very top of vampire classes. Do you know how many points in charm I need to unlock this skill? Quinn asked. 10 points are needed for the influence skill. 140 of 200 EXP. Right now, Quinn had gained 20 EXP for defeating the level 3 student and 40 EXP points for defeating the level 4 student. Even if he did defeat the Wind User in front of him, that would only bring his experience points up to 160. It wouldn't be enough to level up. The reason why Quinn was so adamant about unlocking this skill after hearing about it from the system was because he didn't know what to do. The 3 users here were from the same school as him, and they had seen his ability. It would have been fine if it was just the shadow ability, but they had also seen his blood abilities as well and his incredible healing. If he could, he wanted to avoid killing his fellow students, but it was something that would have had to be done. Just then, from the corner of his eye, Quinn saw something forming from the ground. The sharp object shot out like a bullet, and Quinn managed to move his head and dodge at the last second. Suddenly, heavy breathing sounds could be heard. When Quinn looked at the Wind User in the shadow wall, he could see that an earth spike had impaled right through the Wind User's neck. More spikes started to appear from the floor, and when Quinn looked ahead, he could see that the Earth User had regained consciousness and was barely standing on his feet with his hand held out. Die, you bastard! He shouted. Thinking about the spike, Quinn felt like he had just avoided death. You just tried to kill me! Quinn shouted. When I was just thinking about sparing your lives. Humans are truly disgusting, Quinn thought. In a fit of anger, Quinn sent out blood swipe after blood swipe. The Earth User tried to raise a wall between them, but the wall was far too weak. The second the blood swipes made an impact, the wall was smashed, and the blood strikes continued to hit the user. Quinn continued to fire out blood swipes until a message had appeared. A level 4 human has been killed. 80 EXP gained. At that moment, Quinn stopped. 210 of 200 EXP. Congratulations, you are now level 12. 28 of 65 HP. 2 free stat points have been added. 10 of 400 EXP. Quinn wasn't thinking correctly and purely attacked out of anger. The fact that someone had almost killed him, he just reacted, and what happened was not part of his plan. But just like when he looked at Ian's dead body, Quinn felt nothing looking at the Earth User's body, lying there lifeless in the corner. Then, from the back of the shadow void, he could hear a groan. Please, save me! It was coming from the Wind User, who still had the Earth Spike lodged in his throat. The color on his face was now turning pale. If Quinn were a healer, then perhaps he would have been able to have done something. Walking over to the Wind User, Quinn looked at him. Your friend did this to you. No, you did this to yourself when you tried attacking me. I will put you out of your pain. Casting his blood swipe from above and at a close range, he managed to cleanly cut off the Wind User's head, and now he was no longer in pain. Level 3 user killed, 60 EXP gained, 70 of 400 EXP. So I do get more EXP for killing them. Looking at the bloody mess instead of feeling sick like a regular person, his stomach started to growl. Your hunger grows. During the fight, he had used up a lot of blood and had been stabbed several times, and right now the sweat smell coming off his body was only getting stronger. But his mind felt conflicted. I guess I'm no longer human. 65 of 65 HP. Blood type O has been consumed. 1 free stat point has been added. Before doing anything else, Quinn checked if the free stat point could be put into his charm skill, and just like he thought, it could. He then went on to the next body, the Earth user, and had done the same. After getting everything he needed, he could finally increase his charm points to 10. Charm points 10. New skill, Influence has been unlocked. Depending on the user's charm points and the mental strength of the opponent, the user can influence the person or creature to do their bidding. This includes things such as memory loss, information extraction, and so on. Must make direct eye contact with the target. Looking at the bow user on the ground, Quinn was tempted to just end his life there and get the experience points. However, he felt like he really would have lost a grip on himself if he did. In the end, he decided to try out his new powers, and if it didn't work, he would have to go through with it anyway. Lifting the user off the ground, Quinn slapped him across the face a few times until the man eventually woke up. As soon as his eyes opened, Quinn activated his new skill. Skill Influence activated. Skill successful. Around the user's eyes, a small red circle could now be seen, and his body went slightly stiff. "What do I do now?" Quinn asked. "Just say whatever you want, and it will happen. If you ask him a question, his brain will process the information and answer. If you tell him to forget something, he'll forget it. You can even replace the memory, but that's a little risky to be honest, and doesn't work well if he gets pulled in for questioning." Quinn did as the system said and gave out his instructions. "I want you to forget everything that happened today. You never saw me and you never met me. You just came out to hunt some beasts, and I want you to go back to sleep." The color around the man's eyes returned to normal, and he quickly went back to sleep as Quinn had ordered. Quinn then tried to cancel the shadow ability, and slowly from above, the shadow started to shrink and disappear. The shadow started to slowly clear and shrink back until it all went right underneath Quinn's feet. "You are being hit by direct sunlight. Your stats have been reduced by 70%. Immediately he felt sluggish, and his head started to hurt. Once his MC points had returned, he was sure to use Shadow Cloak to cover himself and get out of the sun. Then, just as Quinn was getting ready to set off, he spotted black smoke off in the distance. "Isn't that next to where Peter was?" Vorden and the others started to make their way through the dry, harsh desert. Eventually, after walking through the desert, they could finally see the small well area in sight. "That's where Quinn said to meet them, right?" Layla asked. "Yeah, they said they would be here." But just then, Vorden stopped and looked down at the ground. Rubble from one of the buildings could be seen everywhere, but what shocked him the most was Peter. He was crawling across the ground towards them. His legs had been hurt, and possibly a few of his ribs broken. The only thing he was using was his forearms to crawl along the floor towards them. "Peter, what happened?" Layla asked as she came rushing over and knelt by his side. "I have to," Peter mumbled. "I have to get back those crystals, otherwise those guys will hate me. I can't live anymore," Peter said. "Peter, you've done enough," Vorden said, as he knelt and placed his hands on his shoulders. Peter was half-conscious the whole time, yet there was one thing in his mind keeping him going forward. He had dealt with the gruesome pain of being tortured, but he couldn't deal with everyone hating him. He looked up and could see Vorden bent over in front of him. Immediately, tears started to run down his face. "I'm sorry, Vorden," Peter cried. "They took the crystals. I tried to stop them, I promise." "I know you did," Vorden replied. At that moment, all the energy had left Peter's body, and he had completely collapsed and passed out on the floor. "What do you think happened to him?" Layla asked. Aaron had ignored Peter for the most part and went straight for the bag past him. It was laid on top of the rubble. "It's gone," Aaron said. "They took our crystals." "Well, I guess it was pretty clear what happened then," Vorden said. "Wait a minute, what about Quinn? I don't see him anywhere," Layla said. "Well, it's not like we can ask Peter what happened," Aaron replied. "They probably took him away too." Although it was possible, the other two doubted it. Out of the bag, Aaron had pulled out a little first aid box. It looked to be made of metal like a small briefcase and had a small standard red cross on it. Then she placed it on the ground and pressed the red cross. The little suitcase started to transform into what looked like a little droid. "How can I be of assistance?" the droid asked. "Student Peter Chuck over there. Administer whatever you can to make him feel better." The little robot then scouted off and started to scan the area until it had eventually found Peter injured on the ground. "Will he be okay after this?" Layla asked. "He should be," That robot can deal with some pretty serious injuries. It's like having a personal doctor with you, Aaron replied. As long as he isn't near death, he should be fine. But I do have to warn you guys, we only have one of those things. I'm surprised you let Peter use it then, said Layla. Aaron didn't want to use such a precious item on Peter. But after hearing the words of the others and seeing Peter in pain like that, it made her realize that perhaps the others weren't exaggerating about the mistreatments of others. Just then, Vorden spotted the sign of black smoke off in the distance. Do you think that's them? Probably one of them using their abilities, said Vorden. It doesn't look too far away, and we can get our crystals back. But what about Quinn? Layla replied. Why don't we split up? Vorden suggested. We can't just leave Peter out here. I'll stay with him in case anything happens. When he's all healed up, we'll go looking for Quinn. You two can go get our crystals back, but if it looks too tough, then fall back and come to the well. With them agreeing, it was the only thing they could do. Vorden stayed with Peter while the two girls headed off to the area of black smoke. On Earth, on one of the very few pieces of land that still existed, was a reasonably large tower that had been built. The tower was so large and grand in size that if someone was to stand at the top of it, they could reach the clouds. This sole tower's purpose was to monitor the activity of each of the planets on the other side of the portals. It needed a strange source of power, that only Eno knew of. It was the same source of power used to power the portals. But today, unlike any other day, red alarm bells were ringing inside. The people were rushing all over the place. In a single room, they had about 200 employees all looking at a computer screen of their own. Sir, it looks like there's been a breach on one of the green portal planets, one of the men at the computer said. Standing at the back of the room was a man who looked to be in his 50s. Although he was not one to seem intimidating just from looking at him, when he spoke, his words gave a certain feeling of trust. Bring up the information on the big screen in front of you, he ordered. They did as asked and managed to pull up a small video. It was of a black flying object that had entered the planet's atmosphere. It looked to be slightly injured even before arriving on the planet. There are meant to be no Dalki in this area. This is near the start of the solar. The Dalki's planets were mostly at the back. The Dalki and humans shared the planets in this specific solar system. Although not at war with each other currently, the two were in a race with each other to see who could conquer more planets. Send a message out to Dalki Station. Ask them if it's from any of their known battalions and tell them we'll get rid of it at all costs. Yes, sir. Also inform the military base, which is in charge of the planet, to send someone to deal with this immediately. Will do, sir.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.
Out in the desert, the black smoke was now rising into the air more ferocious than ever. It looked like a signal was being cast and could probably now be seen for miles out in all directions. Although Ben had told his friend to go ahead and run away, they both stood there. As the Dalki got out of the ship, they felt like their eyes couldn't leave such a powerful being for even a second. As Ben looked at the Dalki, he noticed that it had a single spike coming from the back of its spine. This was good news, as they had learnt the fewer spikes they had meant, the weaker they were. Maybe we have a chance, Ben shouted. It's too late to run now, but if we face it together. Ben reached for the club on his back and pulled it out. Are you ready, Hugo? He asked. After asking his question, no words were heard, and a few seconds later, a thud sound was heard. As he turned his head, he could see his friend's body lying there in the sand, dead. Ben didn't even know what happened. Out of fear, he charged in with his club held in his hand and used all his strength to smash down at the beast. But with a single hand, the Dalki grabbed the club and then crushed it to pieces. This place stinks, Dalki said. The two girls continued to walk through the desert. Wait up! Aaron, slow down! It's really hot out here, Layla complained. I can't let them take our crystals. If they hand them in and we lose our points, then that means we could lose our place at number 1. So what? It's not worth risking our lives over. Even without those, we should still get a pretty good position. Why do you need to be number 1 so much? For the first time, Erin had paused and stood still in the sand. Her fist was clenched, and just as she was about to say something, she bit her lip to stop herself. "Come on, we're not too far off." By now, the black smoke had covered most of the view in front of them. There weren't a lot of things that could be caught on fire, so just what on earth was making that much smoke, Layla thought. Then, as they were walking, Layla suddenly sped up as she spotted what looked like a small black spot in the sky. As it got closer, she noticed it looked ball-shaped and saw that something was dripping from the bottom of it. "Hey, what is that?" Layla asked. "I don't know. It might be someone's ability or something," Aaron replied. "Maybe you can catch it." Finally, when it was a few meters in the air, Layla managed to stop it and slowly brought it over to their location. But a few seconds later, she forgot about everything and immediately dropped the object onto the floor. A thumping sound was heard, and it rolled onto the sand towards them. With it, a trail of red was sinking into the sand. "That was a head," Layla said with her voice all shaky. "I'm not seeing things right. It was a head? Was it a beast? Or maybe something else even? It could even have something to do with the black smoke," Aaron said calmly. "How are you not affected by this? Our lives are worth more than some stupid crystals," shouted Layla. "Let's get back to the well and tell the others." But Aaron stood there deep in thought. "If it's an intermediate beast and I use my full strength, I should still be able to take it out," she thought. But then, in the distance, a tall figure could be seen coming towards them. Its tail slowly moved to the left and right. "What is that?" Layla asked. For the first time, Aaron didn't seem like her confident self. However, right now she is different. She had crossed her arms over her body, hugging herself and shivering in the desert heat. "Mommy, please save me," she said ever so quietly. Now that the creature was even closer, Layla could finally see what Aaron could see. It was a Dalki, but it wasn't alone. As it walked, it seemed to be dragging something along with it. "Oh, is that another two I see?" the Dalki said. He then looked at Ben's body, which he had been dragging with him. It now had no head, but the rest of its limbs were still intact. He placed his foot on the body and pulled on the arm, ripping it from its socket. "It's a bit closer than last time, but it's not as easy to throw." The Dalki aimed at the two in front of it, leaned back, and speared the arm through the air. Seeing the arm coming towards them, Layla knew this one was too fast for her to slow down with her ability. They barely managed to dodge it, with Layla pulling Aaron away from the area. "Aaron, we're getting out of here." Drawing her hand back, she slapped Aaron across the face, leaving a red mark as she spoke. "Ice path." She created an ice path in front of her and then formed blades below her feet. "Do you know how to ice skate?" Aaron asked. "No." "Then hold on." Lifting Layla onto her back, Aaron started to skate down the ice path at amazing speed. Every time they would reach the end of the path, she would extend the ice in front of her. Those two girls were probably heading for the shelter. If so, it would be bad news if they warned everyone before I got there. I guess I better stop them. Unluckily for the two girls, if the Dalki knew they were not heading for the shelter, he perhaps would have left them on their own. Their destination was actually for the well, hoping to warn Vorden and the others. Vorden was currently looking at Peter, who was bandaged from head to toe. The little droid had even performed stitches in areas that had an open wound. "Did we go too far?" Vorden said to himself. "Too far? Are you kidding me?" Rayton said. "You seem to be forgetting that this person sent us off to our death." "Rayton, don't you remember why we were created?" Vorden asked. "Perhaps Peter was going through something similar to Syl, and it was only thanks to us that Syl was able to cope with it all. Have some sympathy for Peter." Just then, Peter started to move a little in his sleep, until eventually he opened up his eyes and slowly lifted the top half of his body off the ground. "I would move slowly if I were you," Vorden said. "I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but I feel like I need to get something off my chest," Peter said. Vorden continued to look away, avoiding eye contact. "I didn't choose the school or the bullies over you two like you might be thinking. I chose my family over you two. You see, I have an older sister, or maybe I should say, I had an older sister. She died on an expedition. It was a big shock to us all, but it was an even bigger shock for my parents. They told me not to worry, not to try and work hard like my sister, for fear I would perish as well." "Sounds like you had a good family," Vorden said. "You should have listened to them." Trust me, they are a lot happier with you alive. Peter then lifted himself from the ground and looked at Vorden. I realized that, and that's why I said I picked my family over you guys. But then they started targeting me, threatening me on this expedition. Was it Earl and his underlings? Vorden asked. No, I mean they were a part of it, but it was someone bigger, someone near the top. Who? Peter, tell me. Was it one of the teachers, or even one of the sergeants, maybe? Peter paused for a second, as he was unsure whether he should tell Vorden or not. Vorden strangely looked at him. This made Peter feel scared, and made him start to talk. It was... Before Peter could answer, Vorden! Peter! Quinn! Layla shouted at the top of her lungs. The two of them immediately headed outside, and could see Layla being carried by Aaron, who ice-skated through the desert. Are you okay? Layla asked Aaron. I just used up all my power. I don't think I can help in the fight, Aaron said. What happened? Are you running from the people who stole our crystals? Peter asked with a worried expression on his face. No, it's a Dalki, Layla said. The fear was written on her face. Further in the desert, Quinn was plodding away in the loose sand, walking back towards the water well. Long exposure to the sun has been confirmed. Your body has been weakened further. All stats will now be reduced by 80%. What is this? Quinn shouted. 80%? At that moment, Quinn had fallen to his knees as his whole body gradually started to feel weaker. What is happening to me? System, help! Please explain, Quinn shouted to himself. Skill-activated Shadow Cloak. The shadow at the bottom of his feet began to slowly surround him. He became like a human figure made out of shadows. Stats have returned to normal. His MC points hadn't fully recovered. Quinn wasn't bothered about this. Aaron and Vorden could protect him until his MC points fully recovered. A Dalki, are you sure? Vorden asked. They suddenly saw a black figure flying in the sky. It was coming in their direction. It crashed into the large metal machinery, causing it to break apart. The Dalki standing right in the middle of the wreckage could be seen. You should tell me where the shelter is. Now, Dalki said, pointing to the piece of scrap metal beside Layla. Me? She stammered. It's over there, she pointed. Thank you, but I'm afraid no one can know that I was here. He then straightened the piece of metal in his hands with his claws. Then, using his fingertips, he sliced the top half of it to create a makeshift spear. I must not fail my mission, he says as he chucked the spear toward the students. Vorden immediately arrived in front of the group and conjured an ice barrier. No, that won't be enough, Aaron said while still lying on the ground. She then lifted her hand and helped Vorden cast another wall behind it, making it as thick as possible, using the last bits of her power. I need to help, Layla thought, as she focused her mind, doing her best to slow down the spear's movements. Also, Peter rushed forward to where the ice wall was. Peter, what are you doing? Watch out, Vorden shouted. I can help too, Peter shouted back. Peter placed both of his hands on the ground, and in that spot, a piece of earth started to slowly rise, eventually creating a third barrier. Then finally, the spear had stopped moving. Oh, perhaps we need to start waging this war again before you Earthlings grow even stronger. Syl, we need your help now, Vorden said. No, Syl shouted back. If you don't, we will all die. You said you would take me to see Quinn. I don't even see any Quinn around here. Why would you lie to me? Syl asked. Just ignore the brat, Rayton said. Let me take over. We don't have time. Vorden immediately left the chair and allowed Rayton to take over. The Dalki then rushed forward, and at that moment, Rayton placed both of his hands on the ground, and a trail of ice materialized, heading straight for the Dalki's feet. Hey, ugly! Rayton shouted at the Dalki in an attempt to provoke it. When that ugly thing stops moving, fire all the arrows you have at it, he shouted to Layla. In the end, she aimed the arrow to go directly into the Dalki's thigh. However, the arrow simply bounced off, not even leaving a scratch on it. Damn it, Rayton shouted. Let's have some lizard barbecue. Using both of his palms, he fired a huge stream of fire toward the lizard. But then, the intensity of the flames started to decrease at an alarming rate, as if they were being sucked away by something. All of the flames were flowing towards the Dalki like it was a vacuum, traveling in one stream directly towards the Dalki's mouth. Thank you for the meal, it said. I haven't had anything this tasty in years. It's hopeless, Aaron said. It's too strong. We're all going to die. Skill-activated Shadow Void. The area around them started to be encased in a dark shadow. Is this the Dalki's power? Layla asked. The Dalki himself was equally confused as them. Just what was it that was surrounding the entire area with them in it?
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.
Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.